Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSC, and I'm your host, Michael Lyons. And today, last week I said I was going to do my award predictions and my award ballots for the NBA season. I ended up pushing that till next week due to some injuries that happened in the NBA, not knowing who's going to be fully eligible for the awards. Plus, the playoffs don't start till next Saturday, so we got plenty of time leading up until that point. So I decided I haven't talked about my team a lot all season long. I might as well, for one show, talk about the Sacramento Kings season in review. Now, honestly, there's not a lot bright to talk about. There's a lot of negative things to talk about with this team. But there are some bright spots that we will cover on today's episode. After that, we will then talk about the play-in, who I believe is going to make it out of the play-in, and who's going to make it in the Eastern Conference as the top 5 to 6 seeds, because that is still up for grabs going into the last week of the NBA season. So, starting off with my Sacramento Kings, where do we begin? From the start of the season, where we appointed Doug Christie to be our full-time head coach, where we signed Russell Westbrook, we extended Keegan Murray, there's just not a lot bright anywhere in this year. Now, I like some of our young guys. Nick Clifford, he's shown some signs, but he's not a franchise-altering, franchise-caliber guy that I think we need at this point in the Sacramento Kings. He's a good basketball player, but the only thing is, like, I think his value is on a playoff to championship level team where he's just kind of a guy coming off the bench, giving you 8 to 10 points, averaging some good efficiencies while playing really solid defense. Now, I'm not going to fault the Kings for it because there's really not anybody behind us that I really wanted to get picked. Liam McNeely, maybe because he was really young coming out of UConn. He's still got a lot of development to come. Danny Wolf, obviously, but outside of that, there's just really... The back half of this draft class, the 2025 draft class, just wasn't really strong. We did hit in the second round with Maxime Reynaud, who's honestly been arguably the only bright spot this whole entire season, along with the undrafted free agent Dylan Cardwell, who's been also phenomenal all season long for us. He did pick up an injury, so he's missed a little bit of time, but he did get his contract extended to a full-time contract outside of being a two-way. So those are really the two things to look forward to if you're a Sacramento Kings fan. Nick Clifford, I think he's also a good player. He'll be good for years to come. Just don't know if he's going to be a long-term piece of the Sacramento Kings. But what do we do? Who is safe on this roster? I can tell you this. If I'm the GM, if I'm Vivek, if I'm Doug Christie, these are the guys that are definitely not safe. DeMar DeRozan, Russell Westbrook, Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis, and Keegan Murray. All of those guys are not safe whatsoever. The only thing is, none of them have any value. Domantas Sabonis played 19 games all season long. He had the lowest effective field goal percentage of his career, lowest rebound percentages since, I believe, his third or fourth season in the NBA. So, again, no value in Domantas Sabonis, really. There's not a lot of teams that need center play that are willing to give up anything for Domantas Sabonis. Honestly, if we could just get him off the books, he has 2 more seasons left on his contract, which Again, Kings doing Kings things, extending guys, and it just not working out. He's making $45+ million for the next 2 seasons, so that's just something that is not great. We have one of the highest payrolls in the entire NBA, and we are a bottom 5 team in the NBA. And we are a bottom 5 team with all of the guys that are making the money playing. So nothing has changed all season long after ending Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis' season. Nothing has changed since then. Doug Christie is definitely not safe, honestly. I knew from the beginning that I like Doug Christie as a guy. I think he could be a good coach in the NBA. I like the idea of like bringing in a former Sacramento King to be the next head coach of the franchise. He was an assistant coach under Mike Brown for a while. But also, I don't like the idea of that for a lot of teams, because then it's like this guy gets painted as he kind of ruined the team. But in Doug Christie's defense, there's nothing he could have done with this team. I look at Doug Christie's value as a head coach on a very young team, a rebuilding team, which if we do go in that direction, I'd like to keep Doug Christie. He knows how to turn rookie guys into veterans in the NBA. He doesn't know how to control a Zach LaVine, a DeMar DeRozan, a Domantas Sabonis as his first ever head coaching experience in the NBA. That's just kind of setting him up for failure, and I'm pretty sure I said that when we first broke the news that he was going to be our head coach. So I think that was just from the beginning something that just did not look right in my eyes. I know I said on Sports Flash in the fall quarter, I don't know if I said it on here, but when we signed Russell Westbrook, I said, Russell Westbrook's a great player, and he's arguably been our best player all season long, outside of maybe Maxime Renaud. Russell Westbrook, he's a great player, but I don't want to see him on the Sacramento Kings. I don't want to see him playing his 18th, 17th season in the NBA on a bottom 5 team in the league. It's just something that I didn't want to see. And looking at Basketball Reference right now, they have Russell Westbrook listed as a small forward, which is crazy to me, because he's clearly a point guard. I don't know what's going on with that. Basketball Reference, you should definitely look into that a little bit. But there's so much to talk about with this team. Picking up DeAndre Hunter mid-season after trading away Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis. Again, it's just not a move that I like. He's got another full season on under his contract, which is $24 million. So next year, if there's no moves, we're gonna have 2 people making over $45 million, and then 4 people making over $20 million. So again, huge payroll that doesn't amount to anything whatsoever in wins, in fight on the court, in bringing energy for the fan base. There's just nothing to look forward to with this roster. Keegan Murray, he had a great rookie season. We extended him to this huge $200 million contract or whatever it is. It's like 4 years, $20 million a year or something. I don't know. Again, something the Kings just can't do right. We finally hit on a draft pick for the first time since, honestly, we've hit on our last couple of draft picks outside of the most recent 2, in my opinion, in Devin Carter and D. Clifford. But Keegan Murray we hit, Davion Mitchell we hit, Tyrese Halliburton we hit, which we traded him to get Domantas Sabonis. Obviously, before that, De'Aaron Fox we hit. So we've been able to hit on our draft picks. It's either we just can't keep the player because we do something stupid as an organization, like trade away Tyrese Halliburton, which I'm not even super upset about that, because at the end of the day, it did lead us to the playoffs. And if Vivek and the organization was able to build off of that, we would probably most likely still be in the play-in playoff realm in the Western Conference, because I still think we are a good team if we were able to keep De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, all of those guys. But obviously, that has not happened. We are now stuck with the Chicago Bulls 2.0. So that's something that's just you never want to say, because you don't want to be the mediocre team. You don't want to copy the mediocre team. You want to copy the best of the best. You want to copy the cream of the crop, which is the Oklahoma City Thunder, the San Antonio Spurs, the Detroit Pistons. So hopefully Scott Perry can do that. Also, didn't like the signing of getting Scott Perry. I personally was still a fan of keeping Monty McNair. I know his last 2 years of being the GM wasn't great, but he did lead us back to the playoffs. We have to remember that. He traded Tyrese, got the Sabonis, and we instantly went to the playoffs. It's time to sell the team if you're Vivek Ranadive. You bought the team for, I believe, $300 million in like the early 2010s, somewhere around there. They're worth like $1 billion now, the Kings are, just because the NBA is making so much money. Just sell the team. Honestly, you're not a good owner. Nobody wants you to be the owner. I hope the NBA goes into this the tanking thing and starts finding Vivek, starts finding the organization so something can change. But knowing that, it will just lead to us keeping Vivek and being a play-in team once again for 5 straight years like the Chicago Bulls. But it's tough. It's tough seeing the Kings because we were in the highest of high spots just a couple years ago with that play-in team, or that playoff team, 2022-2023 NBA season, where we were the 3rd seed in the NBA in the Western Conference. Was such a great season, and I will never forget that 2023 season, because that's the first time I ever saw the Kings in the playoffs. It was the first time I ever saw the Kings really be a competent team that was really willing to make some moves. I think we were on a 16-year playoff drought when we finally broke it. It was just such a great year. Keegan Murray was breaking rookie three-point records, which has already been broken by Con Knipple. De'Aaron Fox, clutch player of the year. Malik Monk coming off the bench. It was such an electric year. It was sad the way that the season ended, being up 2-1 against the Golden State Warriors and Harrison Barnes. I will never forgive you for missing that left wing 3 in Game 4 to win the game against the Golden State Warriors. I will never forgive you. It was painful to watch, because at that point, if he makes that shot, we go up 3-1. Nobody outside of the Cleveland Cavaliers had recently beat a 3-1 or came back down 3-1. So, honestly, I would have been like, we're going to the next round of the playoffs, and what that would have meant for years to come with this Sacramento Kings team. And even before that, like, that whole build-up to that year was just insane from the Sacramento Kings. I remember watching the Summer League because Keegan Murray, top 4 pick, we were finally getting some things together, and that's when I really started watching Keon Ellis, because that was his first year. He was an undrafted free agent in that draft class. That was Neemias Queta, was also on that team, and that's when I knew both Keon Ellis and Keita were going to be true NBA players one day, because you see a lot of these Summer League guys, and you're like, they're G League guys. Maybe they can make a 2-way contract eventually. No, I knew Keon Ellis and I knew Neemias Queta were going to be consistent role players in the NBA for good teams. And look at him now. Keon Ellis coming off the bench for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Neemias Queta starting for the Boston Celtics, who both are top 4 seeds in the Eastern Conference, looked at as being championship contenders. And we got a bag of chips for both of them. I don't even know if we got anything for Neemias Queta. I believe he was just a free agent that walked and eventually got picked up by the Boston Celtics. Keon, we got obviously DeAndre Hunter, but that's not the greatest haul to get in return for such a great player in Keon Ellis. But the Kings, they waited too long to move on from some of their guys. Malik Monk, he's going to be at the lowest value of his career since he kind of like broke onto the scene, because he's going to be making $20 million next year, 21 after that. I still think somebody will try and trade for Malik Monk. I think depending on how he plays next year, maybe somebody at the trade deadline will trade for DeAndre Hunter, because he will be on the last year of his contract next season. DeMar, Sabonis, Zach LaVine, I just don't see anything happening with any 3 of those guys, honestly. I think they're most likely just going to be on the Kings roster again next year, which sucks that we're going to have to watch all 3 of those guys play alongside Keegan Murray and whoever our draft pick is going to be this coming year, which we're going to talk about in just a couple minutes. But how different the roster looks from that 2023 team is crazy. We have had so much roster turnover. There's only 3 players left on that team to now, and that's Domantas Sabonis, Malik Monk, and Keegan Murray. And Keegan Murray was a rookie. So, And these are all the guys that are on playoff teams that were on that 2023 team. De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, both on the San Antonio Spurs. Kevin Huerter on the Detroit Pistons. Davion Mitchell on the Miami Heat. Neemias Queta on the Boston Celtics. And Keon Ellis on the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, it's been a tough year in Sacramento, but the only bright spot that there really is to look forward to now, we are sitting right now as the 5th best odds in the lottery, and doing one tankathon sim, they land with the 2nd overall pick. So depending on what Indiana in this case goes with, maybe it's AJ DeBonsa, maybe it's Darren Peterson. In my personal opinion, I don't want to see Cam Boozer in Sacramento. I think Cam Boozer is a great player. I don't think he has as high of an upside as some of the guys that are inside the top 7. I think he's just going to be a good NBA player his whole career. Even coming into his rookie season, I think he's going to be really good. So, and I also don't want to see him get his career ruined in Sacramento, just because I think what we're looking for is a guy that has super high upside that can kind of take the keys to the franchise immediately. I don't know if Cam Boozer is quite exactly that at this moment. I think he fits better on a team with a little bit more of a foundation, a little bit more of a shape to their roster, and they're just a little bit more put together. The Kings are so sporadic at this point that it's just, I would hate to see him go there because it would just be detrimental to his career. But if I had to list the top 5 guys that I really want the Kings to go after in this draft class, one is it's between Darren Peterson and AJ DeBonsa. I most likely would go with Darren Peterson just because I'm more of a guard guy personally. I think having a strong point guard that is like 6'6" is really good for the roster. But I also look at AJ DeBonsa and I'm like, that guy's a beast. He's going to be a beast in the NBA. So really either one of those two at 1 or 2 is perfect. If we reach for Cam Boozer, personally, I would be really upset. after those two, AJ DeBonsa, Derek Peterson, which I look at as like a 1A, 1B, I then go to like a guy like Acuff. I think Acuff is going to be a franchise-altering guy. He kind of did it with Arkansas this past year. He was hooping in March Madness. Wish they kept going, but they did have to face some really tough teams early on in that tournament. After that, Caleb Wilson is the next guy that I look at. I think he has one of the highest upsides out of the top 10 players in this draft class. Really, I think he might have the highest behind maybe Darren Peterson and AJ DeBonsa. Acuff is also up there. And then for fifth, it's tough because I think Kingston Flemings, he's shown some signs, but also showed some flashes of not being particularly great. Keaton Wagler, also kind of the same way. Thin frame guy that at 6'6", he's a good shooter, but I don't know if he's a franchise-altering guy. And, yeah, after the top five, maybe I'd put Cam Boozer at the fifth spot just because he is so good, and there is a lot of talent there. So, I could just be being, like, a little facetious and, like, maybe this dude is going to be, like, Cooper Flagg in the NBA. So, I don't know. It's tough. But, really, Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, Caleb Wilson, Darius Acuff, if we can walk out with any four of those guys in this draft class, I will look at this year as not being a complete failure, because if we don't get either of any four of them, whether we fall and they all get picked before we can pick, or we make a drastic decision where we pick somebody that is definitely not deserving of the position that we're going to pick them in, it might be another year where I don't watch Sacramento Kings games, and I want to watch whoever our young guy is going to be, but our GM, Scott Perry, Vivek, you need to make the right decision this year. This is one of the biggest draft classes for us in a long time. We need to hit on this first-round draft pick. We need to hope that we stay in the top five, honestly, because after that, it gets a little spooky. Because there's a chance that, like, Acuff doesn't fall, who's in Take-a-thon's mock draft, he's listed at 7 to Dallas, which would be insane. But the top four, AJ, Darren, Caleb, and Cam, all those guys are franchise-altering guys. And then the next guy that I look at is Acuff, which personally, I think he's probably going to go in the top five. So the Kings for sure need to make sure that they're going to be a top five pick in the draft, which at this point, there's no controlling it. We're sitting at fifth right now. I don't believe we could fall any lower. Just take a quick peek. Yeah, Dallas is 4 games away from us, and yeah, after that, there's nobody that's close to us. It's really just between us and Utah, who's gonna be at the 5 and 4 spot going into the odds, which doesn't change a lot. And then in the second round, looking at who they have us picking, they have us picking Krivas from Arizona, 7'2" center. He was solid in the draft class or in the tournament. I'm not gonna even pretend like I watched a lot of him all season long. I really only watched him in the tournament. I see a guy like Malik Thomas, who's another guard that's sitting at like 42nd in the second round. So if we could maybe get him, honestly, if we get a Cuff, bring him back. Bring the Arkansas guards back together with Acuff and Malik Thomas. That'd be super fun. And honestly, that would get my attention back on the team next season. But it's tough. It's tough to know who to go for in the second round because there are a lot of guys like I think Dash Daniels could be pretty solid. Dyson's little brother. Who else? Ryan Conwell was good for Louisville. He's a senior, though. I really love Jaden Bradley's game. Shout out to him. He's from Rochester, New York. Shout out to him. Bruce Thornton, as an Ohio State fan, I love him as a player. But I'm not super familiar on a lot of these guys in the later second round. Alex Caravan, he's just a really good basketball player. He's older, so kind of fits that Nick Clifford role of like his values on a better, more competing team. So I do want to go young in the draft class. Abuka Okore out of Stanford. I've heard some pretty good things about him. I didn't watch much of him all season long, so I'm not going to say too much on him. But I did see that he declared for the draft, and I saw that Kings fans were mocking him up in the second round or in the late first round if we were to try and trade up. If a guy like Isaiah Evans falls to the second round, I would love to see us move up and pick him. Morez Johnson from Michigan is also a really strong, really solid player. There's some pieces. There's some pieces in this draft class that need to be had by the Sacramento Kings going forward. And it really starts with we need to for sure hit on our first round pick this year. Hit on a top 5 pick. We cannot have another Marvin Bagley situation. We cannot have another Keegan Murray situation where they're a one-hit wonder, as Keegan Murray looks like he's already turned into in his career. But, yeah, this is the most conversation you've heard all season long about the Sacramento Kings. There are 2 games left in the season, not 2 seasons left. We have the Warriors, which that's something that I did want to talk about. We have the Warriors and Portland to finish off the year. I do want to talk about the fact of the NBA investigating the Sacramento Kings regarding us tanking against the Golden State Warriors. And I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier where I was like, I wish the NBA actually fined Vivek and Doug Christie so something actually could be done to them, but it wasn't. They said that it was just part of the game. Personally, as a fan, I didn't see it as a part of the game, but that just might be me being critical of my own team. It's just not. It's everything. We could just speed past this year, honestly, as a Kings fan. And forgot what the last thing I was gonna say regarding the Kings was. Oh yeah, it's bad when a season is bad for a team when their leading scorer in a game in the big 2026 is Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes led us in scoring against the Golden State Warriors on Tuesday night. Now, I'm not going to lie, Killian Hayes is like low-key been kind of good to end the year. Obviously, like, it's not great, but he hasn't been terrible. In the 21 games he's played this year, 3 games he started, he's averaging 5 points a game, 3 assists, 1 turnover, shooting 90% for the free throw line, still can't shoot the three-point ball to save his life. He's shooting at 26%, and he's shooting 30% from the field. That guy is leading our team in scoring in a game. That guy's also in his 5th season in the NBA, and he's still scoring that little of points. And I believe the Kings might have extended him for those random 2-year deals. Let me just take a quick peek. Yeah, we signed him to a 2-year, $3.46 million contract following his 2 10 days he had with the Sacramento Kings. That's just the epitome of the Kings are doing Kings things, and the fact that we signed Killian Hayes to a 2-year deal in 2026 while he's still shooting 30% from the field and under 30% for the three-point line. That's tragic. Kings fans deserve so much better. Kings fans, I will still continue to say it, we're one of the best fan bases in the entire NBA. We're still, despite the season, we're still in the arena. We're still super loud. But Vivek doesn't deserve to have the money that fans give to him from just going to the games. He doesn't deserve the 1 year of playoff basketball that we get, because now he's just like, oh, we can do that again in another 10 years instead of just building on it when it first happened. It's sad to see how the Kings, who at one point were just such a good, we were such a strong franchise in the early 2000s, and it hasn't come back. And we finally got our coach to bring us back to the playoffs, and Mike Brown, and we let him go in bad fashion, firing him while he's in traffic on the way home from practice instead of calling him into the meeting room to fire him in person. That's how the Kings are. They're shady. They don't deserve anything really good, in my opinion. And this is me being critical because I am a fan. I wish I could say my team deserves to have a good player, to have a franchise-altering guy like some of these teams, like the Mavericks and whatever. But we just don't. We don't treat our players correctly. We don't treat our coaches correctly. It starts with the ownership, and until we get good ownership, we just truly don't really deserve anything. And with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break and come back and talk about the NBA play-in. Stay tuned. We will be right back. This has been Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSC, and I am your host, Michael Lyons. Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSC, and I'm your host, Michael Lyons. And like I said before we went to commercial break, we were going to predict the NBA play-in, and we're going to start with the Western Conference because it's the only one that's set so far. So as of right now, it's at the 7th seed, the Phoenix Suns, which they're pretty much locked into the 7th seed. The 8th seed is the Los Angeles Clippers. The 9th seed is the Portland Trail Blazers. And the 10th seed is the Golden State Warriors. Now, the only two that can flop is the Clippers and the Trailblazers. I most likely believe, let's just look at the schedule real quick of what these two teams have remaining. The Clippers have Portland tonight and Golden State on Sunday, whereas Portland is going to have the Clippers tonight and then the Kings on Sunday, I believe. Yeah, okay. It's really going to come down to tonight's game. Who's going to take it? Having the Clippers with a 1-game lead right now, I'm going to say that they're going to lock in that 8 seed. So it's going to be the 7-8 seed starting off Phoenix versus Los Angeles. I'm going to go with the Clippers personally. I think Kawhi, he's been dominating all season long. He's been playing like an MVP caliber player. Just sucks that he's on kind of a bad Clippers team that started the season off so slow. But I'm personally picking them over the Phoenix Suns in that game, and we get to see Kawhi face off against the Spurs in the playoffs. Kawhi versus former team, which that's going to be electric, seeing how the Spurs and Mitch Johnson in his first ever playoff series with Victor Wembanyama in his first ever playoff series, how they are going to react to playing a guy that has such a long history of dominating in the playoffs in Kawhi Leonard, 2-time Finals MVP. Then the 9-10 game, Portland versus Golden State. It depends on Steph Curry if he's going to play, which he most likely is. And at that in that regard, I want to pick the Warriors just because I think Steph Curry's he can go electric in that game. But I want to see Portland move on, honestly. I don't want to see Golden State playing in the playoffs this year. It's just end of the story. I don't want to see this, in my opinion, trash Warriors team playing in the play-in. So I'm going to pick Portland to move on, and then it's going to be Portland versus the Suns to be the 8th seed and play the Oklahoma City Thunder. And honestly, I'm going with Portland. I think there's just something about this Portland team, whether it's Toumani Camara and Donovan Clingan. I think they could truly give us a good first-round matchup between the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't think they're going to win it whatsoever. I don't think they win more than a game, honestly. I think it'll be a gentleman's sweep. But I want to see them in the playoffs. I want to see Denny facing off against 5 of the best perimeter defenders in the league. I want to see Donovan Clingan battling down low with Chet and Ihart. I want to see Toumani guarding Shea, how Shea's going to react to that. I want to see Tiago being the interim head coach leading this Portland Trailblazers team because personally, I think he kind of deserves to keep his job after this season. I believe Shaedon Sharpe is injured, so I don't think he will most likely play. But yeah, I just like the Portland Trailblazers team. I do like the Suns. I think they're a good team as well, but I don't think the way the Phoenix Suns match up, they could take a game from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Not because they don't have more talent, because I do believe they do. I just think the size and the positioning battles they have, I think Portland could just give us a little bit better games. But it is always fun to watch Devin Booker in the playoffs, so neither choice is the wrong answer. Now moving on to the Eastern Conference, which is still up for grabs for who's going to be in the play-in. The Miami Heat are the only team locked into the play-in, and they're most likely going to be the 10 seed regarding that Charlotte or Philly doesn't lose out for the rest of the season. Miami, again, typical Miami. They're sitting at the play-in spot once again every single year. Shout out to Elias, the resident Heat fan here at RDSE. And then you got Toronto and Atlanta sitting at the 5 and the 6 spot, which that's still up for grabs as well. Orlando's only a game back from both of them, and then Philly and Charlotte are only 2 games back. So it comes down to this last couple of games. Toronto ending the season with Cleveland tonight. Or no, the Knicks. Or this is Toronto. Toronto has the Knicks tonight and Brooklyn on Sunday. The Hawks have the Cavs tonight along with, let me just check, Miami on Sunday. And then Charlotte has, I believe, Detroit tonight. And then on Sunday they have New York, who's still kind of battling for a little bit of positioning at this moment with Boston after they beat them last night. Philly then has Indiana and Milwaukee. So as of right now, they have the best, the easiest schedule. And then Orlando has the Bulls tonight and the Celtics on Sunday. I personally think Toronto and Atlanta are going to hold on to that 5 and 6 spot. That's what I want to see as well. I think Toronto being able to match up against the Cavs in the first round, that'll be a fun matchup. Obviously, the size of the Cavs is going to be a huge problem for the Raptors. But Atlanta versus New York, there's a little rivalry there. Obviously, Trae Young does not play in Atlanta anymore, so it's a little different now. But there still is a little bit of a rivalry there, I feel. Jalen Brunson, I don't know if Jalen Brunson was a part of those teams. I know Julius Randle was. Mitchell Robinson was, but a lot of those guys really weren't on those teams. So maybe that rivalry is dead, but a younger team that doesn't really have any, they weren't expected to be a playoff team, and the Atlanta Hawks being able to make it, I think that's a fun team battling against a Knicks team that is looked at to be a finals contending team. And then for the play-in, that'll land Orlando, Philly, Charlotte, and Miami. Starting off with Charlotte and Miami, I think Charlotte is going to handle Miami. I'll say this. I think Charlotte is going to jump Philly in this last week of the season. I know Philly has an easier schedule, but Joel Embiid just got appendicitis. We don't know exactly when he's going to come back. I looked it up. Appendicitis is the surgery depends on which one you're going to do, but it's between like 1 to 5 weeks on how long you're going to be out. So in a week from yesterday, their first game of the play-in is probably already going to be done. So depending on what happens there, they could not be in the play-in anymore when Joel Embiid comes back not fully healthy, but comes back on the court, and he's obviously not going to play these final 2 games of the NBA season. So I think Philly's going to fall to the 9 spot, and it's going to be Orlando and Charlotte for the 7 spot. And I think Charlotte's going to win. I want Charlotte to win. Orlando is the only team in the play-in I don't want to see in the playoffs. Because I just personally don't like the buildup of this Orlando Magic team. I don't like Jamal Mosley. I think he is far, in a way, gone past his due date in getting fired from the Orlando Magic. But if we're just basing it off how the standings are right now, I think Philly beats Orlando in that first game, and then it's Charlotte-Miami. I think Charlotte beats Miami, which it scares me because I want to see Charlotte make it, but Miami with Eric Spoelstra, it's hard to pick against him, especially because he's basically like Mr. Play-In regarding coaches. But I will pick Charlotte, and then for the 8th seed to play Detroit in the first round, Orlando versus Charlotte, I'm picking Charlotte to go on, and we get to see a full series of kind of a little bit of bad blood between Detroit and Charlotte. That would be a super fun first-round matchup. And then Philly versus Boston, you kind of got a little bit of a rivalry right there. They've battled in the playoffs before. Obviously, this is a new era for both teams. Joel's still dealing with his injuries like he's done his whole career in the playoffs, but I'm excited for the play-in to come on next week. It's getting to the time of playoff basketball starting. I believe it starts next Saturday, so stay tuned for next week. We will be doing I will be doing my award ballot show along with my playoff predictions regarding each of the matchups and reactions to the play-ins as well. I think we're going to end the show a little bit early today, just because there's really not much to talk about in the NBA right now. So I'm going to end the show early. Stay tuned next week for the award ballot and reaction to the playoff seeding and play-in and predictions for the playoffs. This has been Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSC, and I'm your host, Michael Lyons.